Hey everyone, and welcome back to That Engineering Girl. Today, we're doing an interesting video called Let's Talk 2020, a review. So essentially what we're going to be doing is reviewing 2020 as a year and the accomplishments, successes, and experiences that I underwent that I'm super appreciative to have had. Now, before we get started, as a disclaimer, I know that this is a topic that may be sensitive for many people, so just keep yourself in mind and really ask yourself if this is a video for yourself, and if it is, then keep on watching and let's get into it. Alright, so the first thing that I absolutely loved about 2020 is the experience that I got through ILS. Now, ILS stands for Integrated Learning Stream, and this is a program that was offered to me as a second-year electrical and engineering student at the University of Calgary. And essentially, it was a hands-on version of the second semester of second year of electrical engineering at USC. So it was an opportunity, not everyone had to do it, but I took that on and I thought it would be a great experience, which it was. Now, essentially what ILS was is hands-on, like I said, so essentially everything that we did was hands-on. We had test equipment available to us readily throughout the entire day, the entire semester, theoretically because of COVID. But anyways, we had test equipment available to us 24/7 the entire day, a homeroom that was dedicated to ILS. So the professors actually came to us and we learned there the entire day. And even, for example, before even learning a concept, we were experimenting with, say, transistors and BJTs are transistors, but essentially transistors and different MCUs and different chips and so on and so forth, and actually building things like amplifier circuits and filters and so on and so forth without actually even knowing what they did before learning about them. And then learning about them after really solidified what we had seen in real life. So that's just an example of the way ILS really helped me develop. Now, specifically why I absolutely loved ILS is because my lab skills went from here to like here. And that's with, oscilloscopes, function generators, power supplies, multimeters. Even though you may think multimeters are pretty self-explanatory and easy to use, they're not. You gotta be very careful about all the nuances that all the test equipment comes with. Specifically, say, for example, oscilloscopes, the output impedance, you could have it at like 50 megahertz. I always say hertz. It's so easy to say hertz because they work with frequency all the time. But essentially, you could have an infinite output impedance, which is really 50 mega ohms, or low output impedance, which is almost 0 ohms. And that's going to affect how you measure things and what your results will be. Plotting Y versus X on oscilloscope, plotting FFTs on oscilloscopes, all of that jazz. Being careful about all the capabilities of test equipments and what you're actually measuring. So my lab skills went out of the roof through that program, and for that I'll always be grateful, because there's no way I would be as good as I am today if I hadn't gone through that program. I learned more in that one semester, and really 3 months, because at the end of March, the university shut down because of COVID. So I learned more in those 3 months than I learned in the previous 1.5 years through my university degree. So it was absolutely phenomenal. Now, that wasn't the only reason why I loved ILS. The second reason why I loved ILS is because of my project course that I had to take as part of ILS. So I didn't mention this, but what ILS was essentially is it combined all the courses of that semester into one holistic unit, if you want to call it, and they all meshed together and basically were taught together in a sense. So essentially, our project was tailored towards what we were learning in our other courses. Now, in the normal stream, the people taking the project class, they have a very laid out project, such as, you have to build a robot, these are the requirements, now build it. Whereas in ILS, we were given free reign over what we wanted to build, and we had 2 requirements. It has to use the PIC 8, I believe. I don't think it was the PIC 16. It was the PIC 8, I'm pretty sure. I'm not 100% sure. But essentially use one of the PIC MCUs, so microcontroller, and it had to produce some sort of audio. But essentially we had very few requirements and very few constraints. So being able to go from the ground up, from an idea to, not even an idea, from brainstorming to an actual functioning prototype, that was an awesome experience. I learned about patents, IP, so intellectual property, the creative design process, trademarking. There was so much to be learned, so agile project management even. There was just so much, as part of the whole design process that my group and I went through that it was absolutely phenomenal. It was such a good experience. Overall, my project class was a check mark as part of ILS. So the third thing that I actually absolutely loved about ILS is through ILS is how I found my passion for hardware and more specifically processor design. And that's actually not something that I've mentioned before, but eventually I want to build my career in processor design, which more generally you can think of as chip design. So how did I get this through ILS? Well, through ILS, I was actually taking a course. It was a computer organization course in which, I learned about virtual memory, caches, processors, assembly language, literally everything related to computers at a very high level. It was a very, very awesome course and it just took over. I absolutely loved everything about that course, but more specifically, I was obsessed with the processor part, so control paths, data paths. Do you need an ALU there? Do you need a decoder there, and so on and so forth? So actually creating the data paths, I absolutely loved it. And that's actually how I discovered my passion for processors and more generally hardware. And that's actually where I was like, okay, I actually want to build a career in hardware. Now, the second thing that I am really, really glad to have experienced in 2020 is the summer internship that I had with a local Calgarian company, so a local software development company. And I was initially supposed to be a software developer, but then I was actually offered a BA position instead, specifically because they thought the mentor and myself would be an absolutely phenomenal fit. And it's actually very, very true. Spoiler alert, we were a great fit and it was such a good experience, and I actually attribute 99% of my internship experience to my mentor. But why I love this experience so much is because, first of all, the people there were brilliant. But the key thing is they weren't only brilliant, they were actually good people. And having every person almost at that company be that type of person was such a great experience, being able to connect with them and build relations. And this I'm not saying in terms of networking and building connections, because while that is important, I looked at them from like a people's perspective. Like, these are people that I want in my life and actually want to talk to on a daily basis because they're just such good people. And so I absolutely loved the people at that company and my team as well. They were so great, so helpful, and so smart. Oh my god. There's just something about brilliant people that you just think, teach me your ways, please. But anyways, I digress. So the team was amazing, but like I said, my mentor is the one who made my experience. So my mentor was a female, and she helped me make some tough decisions, come to a few realizations. I feel like I was really able to learn and grow under her watch, and for that, kudos to her, and I'll always be thankful for, all the knowledge she shared and the ways she helped me grow. And that was my internship, which was an absolutely amazing experience. Now, the third thing that I absolutely loved about 2020 is the moves I made in terms of understanding hardware more and becoming more fluent in hardware. And so I know that's very subjective and you're just like, well, what's more, right? But what I mean by that is, long story short, I entered the race 100 kilometers behind everyone else. And what I mean by that is I actually discovered my passion for hardware and I actually committed to being a hardware engineer at the end of my second year. Whereas the other people that are interested in hardware and processors and digital circuits and all of that jazz knew that at the end of, say, like grade 6. So they had way more technical skills, knowledge, experience over me. And that's what put me at a huge disadvantage. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to do anything. That doesn't mean I give up. What that means is I just gotta work extra hard to catch up and actually be better. And so this last semester gave me the opportunity to learn more and explore more, because as a starter, it's really hard to actually understand where to even start. And I was feeling very overwhelmed at the beginning or at the end of summer because I had no idea where to start. I had no idea, do I do microcontrollers? Do I do FPGAs? Do I look at different architectures? So computer architectures like x86 versus ARM versus like all the other architectures that are out there. So I was having all these like battles, if you want to say, or debates within myself. It's like, where do I start, right? And so this last semester gave me the opportunity to see a little bit of kind of everything, really. But more importantly, embedded systems and digital design, which are the two key areas that I really wanted to explore. So I'll always be thankful for that. And how I actually explore this, I was able to do some quite substantial projects in these two areas. So in embedded systems, I actually developed a countdown timer with a team, as well as a very rudimentary version of a multimeter with a pulse meter integrated into it. But these two projects that I was able to do in embedded systems were so beneficial to my learning and my growth, because it just required so much debugging and teamwork and understanding at a very low level where is software even going. So having to understand registers, having to understand different bits in registers, having to understand, ADCs, timers, UART communication, and so on and so forth. So all of that jazz was so beneficial to my learning and development, and getting me a few steps closer to being a better engineer. So I mentioned FPGAs, and I actually also got the opportunity to do a pretty substantial project using FPGAs and more generally digital systems design. And essentially at a very high level, what I created within a team was a target sensor. So as you brought a target closer and closer to the system, it would start beeping faster with LEDs and a bunch of other functionality intermingled. But essentially it was a target sensor, and that was a pretty substantial project for a beginner FPGA course. But it was very helpful in understanding, where do digital circuits fit into industry? Because I knew I was super passionate about digital circuits, and that's actually where my love for processors came out of, is my love for digital circuits. And so being able to see, where do digital circuits actually fit into industry was super helpful in terms of knowledge and being able to grow my career. And so being able to do that project as well really helped my growth and learning as well. So that's my 2020 year review, and I'm so fortunate and glad to have gone through these experiences and accomplishments, especially because of how hard the 2020 year was for many people due to the pandemic. I really look forward to what 2021 will bring for all of us, and until then, see you.